But Anthony Davis has become a better player over the last 2 years. He has been sensational. And Joe, he can not only lead, he can be complimentary. And I don't feel Embiid has a lot of complimentary in his game. You got to kind of change the system. So your take on AD or Embiid starting, and my point on my eyes are telling me AD's a better fit on this Olympic team.
So part of what is working with Anthony Davis and with a bunch of the other guys that he's playing with on that second unit is, as we know, the world has largely caught up with the talk about these best teams all over the world.
Right.
What they haven't done is created the depth. So what we have is a scenario where if LeBron and Steph and Joel, three of the great players in history, can just hold the fort down, then Anthony Davis comes off the bench against lesser players
Right.
and just destroys them. And that's what's happening. He is a beast. He is playing at full tilt, which has been great to see. He's been awesome in camp. He's been really cool to deal with. All those things are true. But when he gets on the floor, he is playing against players who simply have no business matching up with him, and he is taking full advantage.
Yeah. Is there a team that does match up with them and could fight them for the goal, Joe?
No, there isn't a team that matches up with them. But we're not out of the woods yet here in terms of the Americans. And one of the reasons, of course, is that everybody can shoot a three now. The second is the Americans could get an injury. A lot of their players are older. That is true. And then the final thing is that these games are only 40 minutes long.
Right.
So, you shrink the game, everybody can shoot threes. You get in a situation where Serbia plays Jokic for 35 minutes out of 40. If he keeps it close, you get into a tight situation. I mean, these are the kinds of things that can happen. But I've seen them play against Canada, fully loaded NBA roster, Australia, 10 NBA guys, and Serbia with Jokic. And Team USA has clearly been the better team.
Yeah. Kevin, we made this argument an hour ago. I said, if I was a Phoenix Suns fan, I'd be like, please don't play Kevin Durant. I think fairly part of his sort of reality now is he's a bigger guy, 6'11" guys and up get hurt early. They start getting hurt later. He's not Larry Bird on the Dream Team where he was a shot fighter. Kevin's still an amazing player. But what will his role be when he comes back? Could he be 8 minutes a half guy and just really have a reduced role? Because I think Steve Kerr also, he's thinking about the league and the Suns, and you don't want to get guys, extended beyond what they're capable of. What's Durant's role in this Olympics?
So you look at what they're doing with Joel, and Joel is actually playing a few less minutes than LeBron and Steph and AD and Bam. But by and large, what Steve is doing is he's playing five guys at a time. He's using hockey subs. So I think that Durant, assuming that he gets onto the floor this week, I know he practiced today. I'd be surprised if he plays Saturday. I feel more like Monday against Germany is when he makes his on-court in-game debut. But if he starts, I think by and large, he plays the hockey sub minutes. The thing is, Steve can then turn to a few more minutes for Tatum and or Booker over Durant. But that's, I think he's going to play. I think he's going to start. And he's got to find a way to fit in, if you will, on a starting unit that already has the guys that we mentioned and might have Anthony Edwards too. Colin, I asked Kevin this very question. It's funny that you asked me it. I said at the end of his press conference today, we know you're a great player. We know you're USA's all-time leading scorer, but you've been sitting there for 2 weeks watching these guys. What do you think your impact will be on a team that already has Curry, LeBron, and Joel and the starters? And he said basically what we're saying now is that he can do anything. He is a shooter, which you can never have enough shooting. He can protect the rim, as a 6'11", 7-footer. He can do that coming down, from the wing. I think that helps. And he's a clutch scorer, which, I know they have Curry. LeBron can be great in the clutch, but Durant in gold medal games, this is crazy. he's averaging 29 points a game in gold medal games. So when the chips are down, if they have to turn to a guy, they could turn to him.
It's an interesting question. The future, I mean, Jaylen Brown's obviously, Kyrie Irving good enough to play. They're not. You can argue Nike, whatever. But the future's interesting because KD, Steph, and LeBron, this is the last. This is the end of the road. I don't know if AD'd come back again because his body, again, there's been durability issues. In your eyes, we can't just bring the Celtics over. What is the future of the Olympic team for us?
I love this conversation. It's something that I think about a lot. And I started thinking about it last summer with the World Cup team, because those were the guys who are supposed to be just sort of coming up. When we think about the next Olympic team, which is they're going to play in Los Angeles. So this is another very important Olympics for the Americans. Tatum and Booker, you think they're going to be on the team.
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards.
Yes.
Is the leading scorer right now. He forget about Curry, forget about James, forget about Davis. Anthony Edwards is leading this team in scoring through 3 games. He's on the team. Tyrese Halliburton, he's on the team because he's on this Olympic team now. So then you think about will Brunson be too old? Maybe not. Donovan Mitchell, maybe he gets a chance. Cooper Flagg, he will have been in the league 3 years by then. I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the team. The 2 guys that we're not talking about right now, Ja Morant and Zion Williamson, they were supposed to be the next faces of the league. For varying reasons, it hasn't happened. Do they get it turned around within the next 4 years so that they get a chance on Team USA? These are all great questions. France is going to be awesome by then. Victor Wembanyama is just going to be an point. They're going to be a lot to deal with, but I think the next Team USA is still going to be very good.
Yeah. It was not a great draft. We know that. Bronny went 55. I defended the move, and my takeaway is all week I've been going to the players that were drafted just above him and just after him, and he's very similar, except he sells more merch. But it's guys struggling. It's all G League guys. Within basketball, it didn't bother me at all. And the argument I made, Joe, was we do favors for each other. And LeBron's done a 20-year favor for the NBA, making their rating. They got a new TV contract mostly on LeBron James, right? And Steph Curry in the Warriors dynasty. So, in a bad draft, his kid's a G League prospect. I don't have a problem with it at all. He's actually had back-to-back pretty good games. But in basketball, do you sense any resentment for the pick?
Not yet, but I mean, you have to keep in mind, basically since that pick was made, I've been around these 12 future Hall of Famers, and one of them is his dad. So it's harder. It would be harder to catch the average, the average player, grumbling about this or that. I think the average player knows that teams every year take flyers on guys. Every year, there's draft and stash guys from Europe. Sometimes they never come over. There's players that are taken in the top 15 who stink, top 20. So, I think no one is under any illusion as to why this happened.
Yeah.
And it would be better if the Lakers didn't try to make up reasons for why Bronny was picked. We know that. What we want to see next is what Bronny does with the opportunity.
Yeah, it's a great point. There is that draft and stash European thing, which is not discussed, but to your point, it does happen. And I think when the NFL, you have a 7-round draft, I've always felt after about the 15th pick, you're taking some gambles in the NBA. It's an older college player who maybe fits. Finally, you have unique access. Joe Vardon joining us for our radio audience at Joe Vardon, a longtime NBA writer now for The Athletic, does a great job. You get to go to practice. You got to watch these guys, and nobody gets that. What is it like watching the legends of the game with the kids? What's the intensity? I know it's a simple question, but what is practice like for these guys?
They work hard. They have to do it in a controlled manner when they're practicing against each other, partially because of some of the injuries. Joel There's a player here who's kind of like a two-way guy. He's played a little bit for Utah, but he's also spent time in the G League. His name is Micah Potter, and